Ad hominem. An ad hominem fallacy happens when someone attacks the person instead of addressing their argument. Instead of responding to evidence or logic, they question the speaker's character, background, or motives. This tactic distracts from the real issue and shifts the focus to personal flaws. For example, if someone argues for healthier eating habits and the response is, "You're overweight, so why should we listen to you?" The argument itself is ignored. Even if the person has flaws, their reasoning might still be valid. Truth is not determined by who says it, but by the strength of the evidence presented. Straw man. A straw man fallacy occurs when someone distorts or oversimplifies another person's argument to make it easier to attack. Instead of engaging with the real claim, they create a weaker version of it. For example, if someone says, "We should regulate certain industries to reduce pollution," and the response is, "So you want to destroy businesses and ruin the economy," that misrepresents the original point. By attacking this exaggerated version, the real discussion is avoided. Straw man arguments are common in debates because they make opponents look extreme, even when their actual position may be reasonable and nuanced. False dilemma. The false dilemma fallacy presents only two options when more possibilities exist. It forces a choice between extremes and ignores middle ground. Statements like, "You're either with us or against us," suggest there are only two sides, when in reality, someone could agree partially, disagree thoughtfully, or propose a different solution. This fallacy simplifies complex issues into black and white thinking. It is powerful because it pressures people emotionally to choose a side quickly. But most real-world problems are not limited to two choices. Critical thinking requires recognizing that many situations offer multiple alternatives beyond the ones presented. Slippery slope. A slippery slope fallacy claims that a small first step will inevitably lead to extreme and often disastrous consequences, without sufficient evidence. For example, if we allow remote work, soon no one will come to the office and businesses will collapse. While outcomes can be connected, assuming an unstoppable chain reaction without proof is flawed reasoning. This fallacy relies on fear rather than logic. It skips the explanation of how each step would realistically occur. Just because one event happens does not guarantee a dramatic escalation. Each stage in an argument must be supported with evidence. Appeal to authority. An appeal to authority occurs when someone claims something is true simply because an authority figure or celebrity says it is. While experts can provide valuable insight, their authority alone does not automatically make a claim correct. For instance, if a famous actor promotes a medical treatment, their fame does not replace scientific evidence. This fallacy becomes especially problematic when the authority is not an expert in the relevant field. Critical thinking requires examining data, research, and reasoning, not just titles or popularity. Expertise matters, but arguments must stand on evidence, not reputation alone. Bandwagon appeal to popularity. The bandwagon fallacy argues that something must be true or good simply because many people believe it or support it. Statements like, "Everyone is investing in this, so it must be profitable," rely on social proof rather than evidence. Popularity can sometimes indicate value, but it does not guarantee correctness. History shows many widely accepted beliefs later turned out to be wrong. This fallacy taps into our natural desire to belong and avoid being left out. However, truth is not determined by majority vote. Independent thinking requires evaluating claims based on logic and facts, not crowd behavior. Post hoc. Post hoc reasoning assumes that because one event follows another, the first event must have caused the second. The phrase comes from post hoc ergo propter hoc, meaning, after this, therefore because of this. For example, I started drinking green tea and then I felt better, so the tea cured me. While the two events are connected in time, That does not prove causation. Many other factors could explain the outcome. Correlation does not equal causation. Establishing cause requires controlled evidence and logical connection, not just sequence. Mistaking timing for proof often leads to false conclusions. Hasty generalization. A hasty generalization occurs when someone draws a broad conclusion from limited or insufficient evidence. For example, meeting two rude employees from a company and concluding that the entire company is terrible. Small samples do not represent entire groups. This fallacy is common in stereotypes and snap judgments. Humans naturally look for patterns, but jumping to conclusions without enough data leads to inaccurate beliefs. Reliable conclusions require larger, more representative evidence. Careful reasoning means asking, is this example enough to support such a broad claim? Often, the answer is no. Circular reasoning, begging the question. Circular reasoning happens when the conclusion of an argument is simply a restatement of its premise. Instead of providing independent support, the argument loops back on itself. For example, this rule is fair because it is a just rule. The explanation does not add new information, it just repeats the claim in different words. This fallacy can sound convincing because it feels complete, but it offers no real proof. A valid argument requires external evidence or reasoning that supports the conclusion. Without that, the logic goes in a circle and never truly justifies itself. Red herring. A red herring fallacy introduces irrelevant information to distract from the main issue. Instead of addressing the argument directly, the speaker shifts attention elsewhere. For example, during a debate about environmental policy, someone might say, "Why worry about pollution when unemployment is high?" While unemployment is important, it does not answer the environmental concern. This tactic diverts the conversation and avoids accountability. Red herrings are effective because they redirect emotions and focus. Recognizing them requires asking, does this point actually address the original claim? If not, it may simply be a distraction.